Hello and welcome to episode 18.
18.
We haven't wrote it down. Our podcast is now an adult.
Wow.
Yeah, it's legal in Alberta. Got to wait another year in Saskatchewan to be able to buy it for any alcohol. But in Alberta, we turned 18. So
congratulations.
Congratulations. Actually, I'm impressed that we made it to podcast number 18.
I'm surprised.
Done quite well with it so far. And super excited for our guest, Dan O'Toole.
Oh, boys, I didn't know that was the uniform because I got the same exact jacket sitting 20 feet from me. Boys, do you know where I got my jacket just like that? I got her at the Orono Co-op.
Orono Co-op? Here's the secret, Dan.
Here, you slide over.
Where we got our jackets from.
Yeah.
The Moose Jaw Canadian Tire. They had a whole rack on clearance, and we bought the whole rack and put our logos on them and sold them on our website.
Here's what I tell people about Canadian Tire. It is the one store on this earth where I could easily spend 3 hours in. And people say, oh, it's just like a Walmart. I'm like, no, it's not. Canadian Tire is a store unto its own.
No, my wife's from Massachusetts, and we always have to explain it to her friends. We're like, well, it's not a tire store. I mean, they have tires, but I don't know anyone who actually buys tires there. But anything else you could possibly imagine, you'll probably buy a Canadian Tire.
Now, do you guys have out where you are, do you have the most Canadian store of all time, Giant Tiger?
We do have the Giant Tiger. This is what I discovered about Giant Tiger. I'm going to be in trouble. They're never going to sponsor us after this, Dan. We found that if you're traveling and there's a hotel near a Giant Tiger, that's not the hotel that you want to stay at.
Here's the next thing you want to watch for, because it happens every Giant Tiger. You walk in the front doors, they've got their big sale items, and they always have a piece of clothing right next to a piece of produce that's on sale. What other store do you find that in? No other store.
You're 100% right. Our Giant Tiger is really strange as well, because you walk in the front door and there's like a little tiny cutout that they have between the indoor and the exit door, just big enough for a shopping cart to go through.
Yeah, no, that's you have to be this tall to enter that ride, I think.
That actually makes more sense as well. I absolutely love listening to Boomsies.
Thanks, buddy. You know, it's a little passion project that I do for my new company, and it's a blast. I just get to talk about whatever I want. And the greatest thing, speaking of sponsors, I don't have to bite my tongue. Like when I was at my old work, they're like, oh, you can't say that about Canadian Tire. They're a sponsor. You can't say that about so-and-so. Oh, you can't say that about Canadian hockey. You can't say that about the Leafs. I can now say whatever the hell I want. And it's the greatest feeling, greatest sense of freedom I've ever had.
I know. Speaking of which, you did a great piece on going to a Toronto Maple Leafs game, which I really, that was the most honest review I've ever heard.
They don't give a crap. You're in the place. They don't care about the in-arena experience. They don't care about the sound system. That is the least of their worries, because you can't hear a single thing that's said there. It's poorly lit. It's just if you look at the age of that arena, it's one of the older rinks in the NHL now, I think.
Yeah, it's been a while since they moved into that one.
Like you go from an Oilers game to a Leafs game. There's no comparison between them.
Well, I've been to 2 games there. Actually, we got invited. The NHL and TikTok invited us to a conference final game between Colorado.
Look at you guys in bed with the NHL and TikTok.
I know. They invited us to the conference final between Colorado and Edmonton, and we got to watch Colorado knock Edmonton out of the playoffs last year. But the rink is phenomenal. They did an amazing job there.
Yeah. The only thing I've seen that's negative about that rink is someone posted a picture of the food prices. I'm like, and whenever I see the food prices, I just think of the family, and I'm an empath at heart. So like I cry at commercials. I cry at anyone who needs any pity at all. So I think of the family that saved This is their one big game. This might be their only NHL game. And you really want to get that extra $5 or $6 profit off the hot dog from them? Like, why? Why? I know it's all about profits, but just have the families in mind.
I am completely with you on that. This last New Year's, we loaded up the car. My wife and my 12-year-old son and I drove down to Denver. My son is an Avalanche fan. Right. So we went to an Avalanche game, and their food prices were actually all pretty reasonable.
Did you see the food prices at the Masters?
What are the prices there?
$2 for a sandwich, $2.50 for like a drink. They are like back in time. They're like 1970s prices at the Masters, and they're always going to be like that, they said.
And of all places, I would just assume that the Masters would milk it for everything it was worth.
I know. Well, they make so much off their members. And the other thing I was told, I was talking to a buddy who's played it, and he said they do not accept any money. Like you go play there, everything is taken care of. They don't take any money.
Huh. Well, that's pretty cool. Have you been to like a Masters, Dan?
No chance.
Well,
my old work had the rights. They've got a house and stuff. I'm like, hey, any chance I can go? And no response. Every year, no response.
Not a thing. Well, you've got to go to some cool sporting events though. Like, what's the premier? Like, what's the number one
hands down,
event
Olympics.
You've been to?
Olympics. Jay and I, we did Vancouver Olympics. We did the London Olympics. We did the Sochi Olympics for Fox in Russia, and then we also got to go to Pyeongchang for the South Korea Olympics.
Wow, that's a lot. What was Sochi like?
Oh my gosh, it was another world. We had an open sewer in front of our hotel, so if you missed dinner that night, you just go look in the sewer. The next morning, you're like, that's what they had. They had wild dogs everywhere, but they were friendly and they like knew the rules. So the wild dogs, and they aren't like rabid. They aren't like at a Mad Max. They would sit in front of the hotel and they knew not to come in. And then if you'd walk to the store, they'd follow you along to the store. We had an entire hotel to ourselves. So Chris Chelios was on our crew. Michelle Kwan was on our crew. Peekaboo Street, Jay, myself, and then a bunch of others, but we had an entire hotel where it was like we were back in university living in a frat house. It was pretty cool.
Fox sounds like it was quite the experience.
Oh my gosh, it was. They treat you like gold. We had our own security guards because every Olympics, there's always going to be the end of the world. Like there was one Olympics like, London, they're going to run out of money. And then the Vancouver Olympics, I forget what the tragedy was going to be there. And then the Russian one was nothing's finished. Everyone's going to get murdered. So they gave us security guards, these guys straight out of a Bond movie, 2 Russian dudes. By the end of day 2, we would be leaving the hotel and we're like, do you guys need to come with us? They're like, yeah, fine. They would just sit in the lobby. I'm like, okay, I guess we're safe now.
Yeah, the swing of things by then.
Yeah, they're like, you're good.
So that's the premier. Like if you're recommending, say you got to go to one sporting event, it's go to the Olympics.
1,000%. But speaking of pricey events, it's the most expensive event to go to in the world, probably. Like, and you don't know what tickets you're getting, who's going to be competing. So it's a crapshoot if you're buying tickets. Luckily, I've never had to buy tickets. It's my claim to fame in my adult life. I've never paid for a sporting event ticket because of my job, and I never want to start. So, yeah. And to travel to wherever an Olympics is, you're paying probably 1,000 times what a hotel price usually would be. So it's extremely pricey. If it comes to your town, if the Olympics comes to your town, go. Make sure you go. Get a ticket.
Well, we should Moose Jaw should put a bid in now.
Oh, the Moose Jaw Winter Olympics? Hell yeah!
I'm not sure how the skiing would go.
Hey, Mark McMorris is from Saskatchewan.
I think we'd have to just ship everybody out to Alberta to do the skiing, though.
Well, just start piling the dirt now, and you might have a mountain in a few years.
We'll get there eventually.
Or dig a big trench.
That works. Actually, we used to have a ski hill 10 minutes outside of Moose Jaw when we were kids. It was called White Track, and it was the side of a valley.
Exactly. That's the one in Fort McMurray's the same. It's just down into a valley.
So we make the most of it. Now kids just toboggan there.
I bet you get some speed going there.
Oh, 100%.
Our biggest ski hill in Peterborough was called Armour Hill. And if you went to the top, you'd end up on, like, if you had a good metal sled, you'd end up on the road. And then it started to get a bit too good with the technology in the sled. So they had to plant a bunch of trees so people can't get to the top now. So all our fun is ruined. Our reckless fun of like maybe going into traffic, maybe dying. Yeah, that's all over. Probably.
I feel like just in general, the things we did as kids, though, Dan, like people don't do those things anymore.
Well, exactly. I don't know your age, but for my age, that's the same story for anyone who I grew up with. You leave home after school to go play, and you come home 5-6 hours later. No one checks on you. No one knows where you are. They just assume you're safe.
I used to have to be close enough to my house to hear my dad whistle. So when I heard the whistle, I knew it was time to get home.
Okay, that's did he have a pretty good whistle then, I guess?
Oh yeah, like one of the the dad whistles. Oh, yeah. I can't do it.
I would go play hockey at my friend Rob Fitzgerald's down the road. So he's my neighbor. He was about 1 kilometer away in the country. Ride my bike by myself down a country road. No one checked to see if I got there. No one checked when I was coming home. You think about that now, you're like, that would never happen. That just doesn't happen anymore.
No, it's so different. Like, I think, even this week, the kids are out of school. My son is at home. And I would have been gone on my bike every day, but it just doesn't happen anymore.
You're just having your spring break now?
It's our Easter break.
You get the whole week off?
The kids get the whole week off.
What the hell's going on here?
That's not happening out in Ontario?
No, you get the Friday and the Monday off.
Oh, no, they got the Friday and then the whole week. Plus they had the February break. We had a week in February too.
So as I said, I mentioned on Boomsies this week, I'm like, I feel bad for the kids because after the Easter break, you got nothing till summer. Like you are in no man's land now. Like there's no saving you. Maybe a PA day here and there, but you got no holidays. You got nothing until school's out.
They got one long weekend in May.
Yeah, so you get a Friday or a Monday off?
Yeah. It's hard to feel bad. It's hard to feel bad for them. I said the other day, and again, a job I would never, ever be able to do, but I'm like, why didn't I become a teacher? Because it seems like they get a lot of days off.
I know, but then sometimes like I drive by the school after I picked up the kids at the regular time and it's like 6 or 7 and teachers' cars are still in the parking lot. I'm like, oh, screw that.
Yeah, Leroy behind the camera's wife is a teacher, so I won't make light of their job too much.
Oh, no, it's the most difficult job. So did you have co-op programs in your high school where you go try out a job to see if you want to do it in real life?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I did that to be a teacher. And after the month-long co-op, I'm like, I would end up murdering someone. I can't do this. No chance.
No, I think I could be a teacher without the kids. Just give me the teacher schedule.
Yeah. Is going to the school board. Okay. I've got a proposal for you. Well, how about you could just mark their papers. So you wouldn't have to see the kids. You just mark the papers. And here's the other thing that's happening in school. And I'm seeing it firsthand. ChatGPT. Kids can put what the subject essay is, how many words it's supposed to be. They put it through ChatGPT. It writes the essay. And then they run that through another program. So it takes out any flags in which the teachers would catch it after having been written by ChatGPT. So it's indetectable. So kids never have to write another essay in their lives because of this ChatGPT.
That sounds incredible. Because you know what the most pointless thing we did in school was? Write essays.
Oh, gosh. I wrote one. And I didn't write it. I borrowed it from someone. I handed it to the teacher. She read the first 2 lines. She goes, "You didn't write this." I'm like, "Got me. You got me. You got me." It probably had the person's name on it still. It probably didn't have my name on it.
That is fantastic. Oh
yeah. So it's coming for everyone's job. So look out. I saw that someone made ChatGPT watch 1,000 or 100 Olive Garden commercials and got it to write an Olive Garden commercial, and it did. Like it's baffling. My buddy has it send its emails, and then someone at his work said, "Hey, your emails are looking pretty good." And he's like, "Oh crap, I got to dumb them down." You can tell them dumb down the email.
Well, I got to try this out.
I did it live on Boomsies. I'm like, okay, pretend I'm going to be sick. I say, write me an email for I'm going to be sick. And it went into like a 2-paragraph thing explaining. I'm like, dumb it down. Then it went from 2 paragraphs into, I'm not feeling well. I'll be at home all day. If you need me, email and phone, I've got them. And boom.
I don't think it has a sense of humor yet, because I write a comedy script about a guy named Leroy who goes to Las Vegas, and it wasn't very funny.
Well, that's kind of, it's probably writing what Hollywood wants is non-funny comedies, because they're tough to find now. I don't know how.
Thank you.
I don't know how comedians, like great comedians, are in these things delivering lines and they aren't saying like, this isn't funny. Why are we doing this?
Like, what was the last real funny comedy you saw? I feel like it's been a while.
I really like that Nick Cage movie, the Unbearable Talent or Unbearable Burden of Impeccable Talent or something.
Oh, I haven't seen that one yet.
Because Nick Cage went full Nick Cage and he was unbelievable. And I actually just finished, and I tweeted about this today, a show on Netflix. It's probably on your homepage, called Beef. It is the greatest show I've seen in the last, maybe my life.
Beef.
It's called Beef.
What's it about?
I don't want to spoil anything. It's about 2 people that get in. This is how the show starts. They get in a road rage incident, and then it goes from there.
Okay, we're gonna have to check that one out.
So they've got a beef with one another.
Here's my recommendation that we just watched over the weekend on Apple TV.
I'm writing it down. Oh, I don't have the Apple TV.
You don't have Apple TV? On Apple TV Plus, like, oh my goodness, we just finished watching the latest episode of Ted Lasso, and then we watched Tetris, the movie.
Oh, how's Tetris?
It was incredible. It was great. Yeah.
Really? I'm waiting to see that Jordan one called Air, but I tried Ted Lasso and I just couldn't get into it. I tried it like 3-4 episodes, couldn't get into it.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm absolutely hooked on that one.
I think I need more like a dark comedy. Maybe it was too feel good for me, and I'm like, this isn't real life.
That's what I feel like I liked about Ted Lasso, is as you get into it, it goes so much more than a comedy and does have the real life. I think once you get into like season 2 and 3, not to spoil anything, but he, starts to deal with anxiety and things like that, and it kind of takes some interesting turns.
There's a chat here. So someone, Phil, said it's the unbearable weight of massive talent. Thank you, Philip Baldner.
There we go.
Yeah. This is great. This is a great system you guys got here with your chats coming in. Oh, wow. This is like a real operation. This
is all Leroy behind the camera. If it was just me, we'd probably just be on a speakerphone.
We'd probably just be FaceTime.
Maybe FaceTime.
Maybe not.
With a second phone recording the
FaceTime. Yeah.
Dan, you've gotten to travel like Canada lots. You worked in lots of different places. Do you have like a favorite hidden gem in Canada?
Well, I don't think it's a hidden gem anymore. Saskatoon is one of my favorite cities in Canada.
Oh, us too.
It's great. The Bez. Have you stayed at the Bez?
No, I have not stayed at the Bez.
Oh, geez. Jay and I checked in once. We were there to do an event, and the power was out. And they're like, "By the way, this hotel's haunted." And we're like, "What the? Why are you telling us that?" First off, I don't believe in ghosts, but maybe I do. Don't test me.
We got invited up. We got invited last year to they had like a Comic-Con type thing.
Yep.
And they invited us to come be guests at the show. And Carrie Elwes was supposed to be their like big headlining guest. He had to cancel because the day before he got bit by a rattlesnake in his backyard.
Oh boy. That's not Saskatoon's also the only place I've ever missed a flight. This is when I was still drinking, got all banged up, and our flight was at like 7. And they called me, and I guess when you hit when you can hit it and it says send a custom text to someone. I guess I hit that and it said like, I'll call you back. And no one came to knock on my door, nothing. So it was the only time. So flying back to we were flying back. You fly back to LA when you've missed your flight in Saskatoon. Oh
no.
Boy. Oh man. If you want to just crawl into a hole and you're like, Saskatoon, I live here now. I just live here now. I'm not even going to try to get out. That's what I was thinking of doing at that moment.
Of all places to be stuck, Saskatoon's a good one.
I'm
a big fan.
Over and you've got to get back to if I was on vacation, sure, I'm stuck there. But when you're bleeding out your eyeballs and you just want to go to bed and you've got to try find a flight. Now, by the way, beautiful airport. Beautiful airport.
I've never been to Saskatoon. We always fly out of Regina.
Okay. I don't think I've ever been to Regina's airport. Oh no, I must have because I did an event there. Regina Airport, I don't really remember.
That's the one.
Wait, don't you go down to an escalator into the baggage place there? Yeah, I've been to it.
Yeah, it's very basic.
What about you? What's your hidden city? Your hidden gem.
Hidden city in Canada. You got an answer for this one?
Oh boy.
It's hard to pick one, I feel like. We always say wherever the last place we've been to was. Like Saskatoon, I love. Also love Calgary.
What about Winnipeg? Winnipeg, also a nice little town.
Winnipeg is a surprisingly unexpected town. That's
right.
It's like we talked about going there, and Leroy behind the camera was like, "Oh, it's great," and I was like, "Oh, it's dirty." And then we went there, and I think I've been back 3 times. My wife and I went there on the holiday last fall. Did
you go to the Museum of Disasters or something? Whatever it is.
Of natural history or whatever it is.
No, it's not natural history. It's like a Museum of Human Rights, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah. No, I've not been there yet. We saw it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is a true story. I'm not making this up. Speaking of museums. So my favorite thing to do in LA was to get home from work and watch the LA news. The LA local news is like nothing else because you're going to see a car chase. You're going to see something else. And I recorded this. I fell on the ground laughing. So they cut to the story, said accident at the corner of whatever the streets were. There was a car slammed into a museum. A person was on the hood of the car. And the museum they slammed into was the Museum of Broken Relationships. I'm like, is this a skit? Like I had to rewind it and watch it 10 times. I'm like, first off, who opened this museum and who's going to it? Secondly, who crashes the car now? And why is the person still on the hood of the car? And the news team was there. What the hell's going on?
I need to visit LA.
Yeah, I gotta Google that, make sure that is an actual museum because I'm like, I still don't believe it to this day, and I never did Google it. Museum of Broken Relationships is currently exploring alternative venues and is in its final week of operations at its current Hollywood location. It's about to close.
Let's move it to Winnipeg.
Well, they probably still don't have a front window because who's going to pay for repairs on that museum after that car smashed into it 10 years ago?
What's in that museum?
I think we need to go on a road trip, boys.
Absolutely. I think you're right.
So where are you from? Oh, we're from Canada. Why are you here? To come to your museum. What?
We want to open our own branch.
Yeah. Oh boy, I could be the head curator of that museum.
We're leaving next week, Dad. We're going to Vegas. Neither one of us has ever been there before.
Oh my goodness, my favorite town.
Give us some recommendations.
Are you going for gambling? You going for shows? You going for drinking? You going for partying? What are you doing? What do you want to do?
I don't know. Neither one of us are big drinkers.
We're going to make videos.
We're going to make videos and hang out. We just want to have some fun.
You know what? I'm on an Instagram wormhole. Well, actually, it's in my algorithm. Somehow I got sucked into. I guess you can record when you're playing slots, and people they make videos of when they hit a big jackpot. Those keep popping up. So anyway, that's a side note. Where do you want to go? You got to check out if you've never been, what the customary thing you do is you check out all the casinos. You walk the strip, but it's not like the old days. Walking the strip isn't you're just walking down a sidewalk. Like you cannot cross the street at any point because there's elevators on the sidewalks. There's crosswalks across. So it's quite a journey. You find yourself walking through a casino, then you're like, how the hell did we get back there? But you got to check out all the big ones. You got to check out Caesars, MGM. The Circa pool will be open probably. That's the one with a massive screen at the pool. Yeah, I'd do that and go to a show. The Beatles show, Love, is really good. Really good.
Okay.
And the Absinthe one, I think it's right outside Caesars. It's really good too. Yeah, the shows. Don't go to any of the Cirque du Soleil. I fell asleep during one. I'm like, okay, you doing another flip? Okay, yeah. Well, what's next? Oh, another flip. Okay, what's next? It just gets a bit repetitive. But they're Canadian company, I think. So they're very talented people. It's just, I like to see, if I like all the songs like I did in the Beatles, then hey, you can sing along.
That's fair. I can understand that. I would like to hear your play-by-play of a Cirque du Soleil show. That would maybe add some excitement to it. But.
Well, also I made the mistake of day drinking by the pool and then going to the show. So that's another reason for the nap. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard all the pools will be open. Our manager and his wife are coming, and they booked us into a hotel because she wants to sit by the pool the whole time.
Okay, what hotel are we allowed to know?
The Excalibur.
Excalibur. You're staying in the castle one. Like it's medieval times for adults.
Well, that sounds fun.
Yeah, and there's one part I've never been to. It's on the main casino floor where it's like the dungeon where you go downstairs. I'm like, I don't want to know what's down there. So you have to visit the dungeon.
Ooh. Okay. Yeah, we'll follow up with you and let you know what's in the dungeon.
Yeah, so you'll be right across the street from the Tropicana, then up the street from you there. You can go to Lux. Oh, I can't believe I didn't mention this. Go to Carrot Top. Oh. No, serious. He's at the Luxor. He is the best bang for your buck on the strip. You will be in tears laughing.
That's that's a good idea.
Like you don't expect it, and he makes fun of himself. Like he'll do a bunch of jokes, and he'll turn to you and say, "Hey guys, a lot of this is filler."
That's awesome.
Yeah, and we met him after the show.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have to look into Carrot Top for sure. That sounds fun.
Seriously, I think last time I went, it was $45. You can't find a ticket for $45 to anything in Vegas.
No, that's fair enough. Sounds good.
I think it would suit our humor too.
Yeah.
It's prop comedy. If you don't like prop, it's basic bones comedy. It's easy to laugh at. You don't have to really pay close attention because it's right in your face.
Speaking of comedians, I really enjoyed your recent chat that you had with Tom Green.
What a gem that guy is. He's moved back to Canada. He's living on a farm. We live in houses very similar. His was built 1 year after mine. His was built in 1876. Mine was built in 1875.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. So I told him he should start like a Tom Green builds a farm because he's going to start a little farm. And I'm like, I'd watch that.
I keep seeing his like comedy tours around Ontario. And then I just get jealous that I'm in Western Canada going, can you come out here, please?
So Jay and I and some friends went to see him in Toronto at the Yuck Yucks, and he did 2 hours of stand-up.
Holy cow.
But it didn't seem like 2 hours because he walks you through his career, and it was almost like a documentary on his life with him telling you all the stories from it. So it was very good.
I can only imagine the stories Tom Green has to. Like,
yes,
he's been through it all.
Very good one about being on The Apprentice and talking to Donald Trump and his interactions with people on that show. And then the fact that he hosted SNL, he reminded us of that. I'm like, I didn't even know that. And he said that was just before Freddie Got Fingered came out. And he said, if Freddie Got Fingered came out before he hosted SNL, they would have canceled him from hosting SNL. Because I've never watched that movie, but he says several times, he's like, that is a bad movie. So I don't know what you guys think on that movie, but I've never watched it.
I have, but it's been so long I can hardly remember it. Yeah,
he just says it makes no sense. Like he says a lot of the stuff he did on SNL, he goes, it made no sense, but hey, I was there with my buddies. They let my buddies come and help me write, and we pitched stuff, and hey, it ended up on TV. So he's kind of an amazement at his own career.
That's fair. He did it all. There's a lot of like golden Canadian when it comes to comedy, though. I feel like there's a lot of funny Canadians.
There is. Martin Short came on our show down in Fox. His son worked on our show, and he came in to visit one night, and we wrote his script for him. We're like, we can put it impromptu. And he's like, no. It was like a 45-second thing he had to say, memorized it all and did it, came on the podcast. He's just a gem. And so did Norm Macdonald.
Oh, I saw Norm Macdonald in this little Chinese restaurant in Massachusetts, my wife's hometown, and he had me rolling on the floor. That was one of the best stand-up comedy shows I've ever been to.
His I just went to rewatch it last night or a week ago, and it's not on Netflix anymore. His interview show. I don't know where to find it. Yeah, it's gone. I don't know what streaming service it's on now. It's not on YouTube, but it was very well done too with his manager Adam Egot. So they had David Spade. They had all his buddies on it. I just find David Spade in any interview he's in is just the best.
I really enjoyed his show, and it was on for a while. He had a little talk show and basically talked about anything but politics.
See, I didn't catch it. I watched all his monologues when he used to do them on Instagram. I found those funny. I think Spade is a very underrated comic, if that's possible, because he is just sneaky funny in anything that he's on.
Yeah, absolutely. We're super excited. We're going to be having on about a month from now. We've got Red Green coming on our podcast. Yeah.
Really? What's Red Green doing these days?
Well, we're going to find. Apparently, right now he's in Florida. So when he gets back, we're going to find out.
I hope he pocketed all that money, and I hope they made that, because that had a long run. Do you remember his show before he became Red Green?
No.
Was it Smith and Smith?
Smith?
No.
Smith.
Yeah, let me pull out I've got a device that has all the information. Smith
research that
and
one.
Smith, Red Green. Yep, that's it. It's 1979 sketch comedy, 6 seasons. It's a Canadian sketch comedy series which aired from 1979 to 1985 on Hamilton, CHCH, and through syndication and other Canadian shows. The show starred the husband and wife comedy duo of Steve Smith and Morgan Smith, Steve Smith being Red Green.
Wow. That's incredible. I'm going to have to look that one up. A huge fan of Red Green.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine.
You know what the best thing of that show was? His little shorts. Not the shorts he was wearing, like he did little black and white shorts where he's like, oh, geez, I don't know what's going on here. And he's like doing the commentary behind the videos. It's like TikTok videos, like, oh, geez, he's going down to the fishing hole. I don't know what he's doing there. And then those are gold, like in tears laughing those. And they've aged very well. That's brilliant.
Oh, 100%. We were talking about what to film one day, and Leroy behind the camera was like, what if we did one where we made our own car wash and literally described an episode of the Red Green Show? And I'm like, that is exactly what Red Green did. He's like, are you sure? And I pulled up the episode and it was almost identical. So there's a lot of inspiration, I think, that comes in from Red Green.
That's right. It's Mr. Dressup wasn't a comedy. I'm just thinking old Canadian comedies, but I grew up with Mr. Dressup, and I tried to describe it to American friends. I'm like, okay, so there's this guy, Mr. Dressup, and he had 2 puppets. I don't know what they were, his kid and his dog. I don't know what they were. And then he had this big trunk. It was called the Tickle Trunk. They're like, what are you guys watching? What are you doing up there?
I tried the same thing. I tried to explain to my wife about Mr. Dressup because it was the best show. And yeah, it sounds really, really bad. Although I don't think it's any worse than Mr. Rogers.
Well, it's just the Tickle Trunk is kind of, you wouldn't get away with that. So here's my question I posed to Mr. Dressup fans. The Tickle Trunk is still alive and well. It's in the CBC Museum, which is in the lobby of the CBC building in Toronto. If the Tickle Trunk went on open market for auction, and anyone can buy it for any price, how much do you think it would go for?
Oh,
Because there's going to be there's a lot of rich people in this country who would love to say, Mr. Dressup, that's the tickle trunk over there. So it's going for, I'm saying, over 100,000.
I was going to say it's going to hit $1 million.
Oh, wow. I wouldn't go that high, but I'd say over 100.
Go for some good money for sure.
And that would be a death trap because that thing's metal. So that closes on someone. But imagine to own the actual tickle trunk. That'd be pretty damn cool. If I was a billionaire, I would definitely attempt to do that. I'd go to the CBC, say, hey, do you guys want a donation? Because I'll give you a big fat one.
I'm taking the tickle trunk and I'm leaving.
Yeah. Where's Casey? I want him too.
That's incredible. Oh, Dan, we can't thank you enough for joining us on our podcast.
Thanks for having me. This was a blast. And keep doing what you're doing. Have fun in Vegas. It's going to be a blast. The craps tables. I hope you know how to play craps. If you don't know how to play craps, here's how you.
No idea.
We don't.
If you're walking through the casino late at night, no one's around. Go up to a table and just watch. Or if there's no one at the table, get the guys to say, what am I doing here? They love teaching people. And it's easy. You're betting on numbers. That's it.
I'm gonna have to try that out.
And just don't say the number 7 when you're at the table. Never say that number.
Okay.
And if someone's rolling, you wait till they're done rolling and it says off on the table. Don't join mid-roll because you put a jinx on the whole table. Those are the only things you need to know about craps to have great table etiquette.
We've got the inside tips straight from Dan.
Tips. Hey, Tips O'Toole.
I love it. Well, Dan, I hope we can do this again sometime. I told Leroy behind the camera, I said, following along with you over the years and listening to your old podcast and Boomsies and everything else, I said, I always feel like Dan is someone who I'd just be friends with. Every time he went on a rant about something, I was like, yeah, I agree with Dan. And because of that, I'm just like, I think we'd be good friends.
I think so too. I felt the same watching your guys' videos. So if you come to Ontario and shoot some videos, I want to pop up in the background. Don't even make reference to me. I'll just pop up in the background.
Okay, we're gonna plan another trip out to that way because last time we came, we went to Toronto and then we drove west. So this time we'll drive east and come through Orono, and I'll let you know when we're coming out there.
Oh, that'd be great. You can look at the Welcome to Orono Brian Bickle sign.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thanks so much, Dan. We appreciate it.
See you, boys. Thanks for having me.
We'll see ya.
See ya. Oh, what a gem. What an absolute gem.
No kidding.
Dan O'Toole. This has been a lot of fun. And our sincerest thank you to the legend, Dan O'Toole. What a gem he was. And we can't wait. So next week we'll be live from Las Vegas. The week after that, special guest will be Nick the goalie, for anyone who follows him on TikTok. Yeah. And lots more coming. So until then, I'm Leroy. He's Leroy behind the camera. There's always something to do.